Good morning, students. So today I am going to explain you about transport of gases. Gases means respiratory gases. So how many gases they are transported with the help of blood? Two gases. One is oxygen, another is carbon dioxide. Okay. So first I will explain you about transport of oxygen, because you know that oxygen that is transported in blood in two forms. One is soluble in plasma, second is combining with hemoglobin to make a compound which is called oxyhemoglobin. So only 3% of oxygen is transported being soluble in plasma, and 97% of the oxygen, so that is transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin. Because hemoglobin, so that is a red color pigment which is present in RBC, and that is combined with oxygen to make an unstable compound which is called oxyhemoglobin. So that again it can dissociate to release oxygen at tissue level. Okay. So this graph, all of you see, now this is the graph we have plotted, and this is called oxygen dissociation curve. Oxygen dissociation curve, that is a graph representing saturation of hemoglobin at different partial pressure of oxygen. So the graph, it represents saturation of hemoglobin at different partial pressure. Partial pressure I had explained you. So that is the amount of any particular gas in a mixture of gases. For example, air, that is a mixture which is having oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen. So that is a mixture of gas. In the mixture of gas, what is the amount of oxygen? So that is called partial pressure. Okay. So here, with the help of the graph, I will explain you how the hemoglobin that is combining with oxygen or binding with the oxygen, and how the formation of oxyhemoglobin, so that is taking place under different partial pressure of the oxygen. Then how the oxyhemoglobin dissociates to release oxygen at tissue level. Okay. Now here you see here are two axes are there. One is the x and another is y. X axis representing partial pressure of oxygen, whereas the y axis that represents saturation of hemoglobin. Okay. So we are starting from 0 and we have taken the measurement 20, 40, 60, 80 and 100. Similarly here you see the y axis also we are starting with the 0, 20, 40, 60, 80 and 100. Okay. Now mainly we will discuss about 3 points. One is the saturation of hemoglobin at 20 partial pressure of oxygen, another is at 40, and the third is, so that is 95. So these 3 they are the mainly I will explain. Okay. So when the partial pressure of oxygen that is 20, then what is the amount of hemoglobin which is getting saturated or combining with oxygen? So that is only 30%. Okay. When the partial pressure of the oxygen is 40, then 75% of the hemoglobin, so that is combining with oxygen to make oxyhemoglobin. And when the partial pressure of oxygen that is 95, then 97% of the hemoglobin is saturated. I told you that 97% of oxygen that is transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin. So what should be the partial pressure of oxygen? So that should be 95. Okay. Now you see this diagram so that you can understand fully. This is alveoli which is present inside lungs. So this is blood vessel or the blood capillaries, and this is tissue. Okay. So in the alveoli, when the oxygen is entering into the alveoli, what is the partial pressure of the oxygen? 104. 104. And the blood which is there in blood capillaries, the partial pressure is only 40. Because in the blood that is deoxygenated, there is no oxygen in the blood. So we call it as deoxygenated or the venous blood. So here the partial pressure is 104. So suppose you are taking the 100 partial pressure of the oxygen, so that means all the hemoglobin, 100% of the hemoglobin, so that is fully bound to oxygen, fully saturation is there, and the partial pressure of the oxygen here in the blood capillaries, that is only 40. So here it is 104 and here it is 40. So by the process of diffusion, oxygen will diffuse from alveoli into the the blood in the blood capillaries. Okay. Now the blood is combining with the oxygen. Hemoglobin is combining with the oxygen to make the oxyhemoglobin. Alright. Now this oxygenated blood. So that is coming to the tissue, the place where the tissue of the living cell is present. And here the partial pressure of the oxygen when it is combining with the oxygen, now it is becoming 95. In deoxygenated blood the partial pressure is 40 and in the oxygenated blood the partial pressure is 95. So when the partial pressure of oxygen is 95, then you see 97% of the hemoglobin, so that is bound to oxygen. Because we know 97% of the oxygen that is transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin. So you can find out at tissue level the partial pressure of oxygen is low, it is only 40, and in the oxygenated blood it is 95. So it is more, so automatically oxygen from the blood will enter into tissue. That is the tissue oxygen that is utilized for metabolism, and the deoxygenated blood again, which is returning back, this deoxygenated blood is having partial pressure that is 40. So here you see at 40 partial pressure of oxygen, what is the amount of the hemoglobin saturated? That is 75%. So although we call it as deoxygenated blood or the venous blood, but still it is having some amount of oxygen. It is having not some, it is having good amount of oxygen. Okay, because the oxygenated blood, you can find out why hemoglobin, it has the capacity to carry 1.3 ml of oxygen. So 15 gram of the hemoglobin, it can transfer around 19 ml of the oxygen. But here you see the deoxygenated blood also having around 14 ml of oxygen. So although we call it as the deoxygenated blood, but still it is having good amount of the oxygen. So that this is the way how the oxygen it can separate from the hemoglobin. So it is binding to the hemoglobin in the blood capillaries in the blood, making an unstable compound which is called oxyhemoglobin. The oxyhemoglobin at the tissue, it breaks down to release the oxygen so that oxygen can be utilized. So what are the conditions which can favor? At alveoli the conditions are high partial pressure of oxygen, low H plus ion and low temperature. So these conditions they are favoring binding of hemoglobin with oxygen. When oxyhemoglobin it comes to tissue level, then the conditions are high free CO2, high H plus, high temperature. So all these conditions they can favor the dissociation of the oxyhemoglobin into oxygen and hemoglobin. So now we will discuss about transport of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, all of you know that it is transported in 3 different forms. Okay. So one is soluble in plasma. What is the amount? The amount is 7%. Whereas oxygen, if you remember, the amount is 3%. So carbon dioxide is more soluble in plasma. 7% of the carbon dioxide that is soluble in plasma. 27% of the carbon dioxide will combine with the hemoglobin to make the carbaminohemoglobin, and 70% of the carbon dioxide that is transported in the form of bicarbonate. So in the form of the bicarbonate, majority of the carbon dioxide that is transported. Okay. Now I will explain you how carbon dioxide is released, and it was explained by the scientist Haldane. So this is called as the Haldane effect. This theory explains that binding of more amount of the oxygen to the hemoglobin, it can help release of carbon dioxide from carbaminohemoglobin. So that is called Haldane effect. Okay. Now here you see, this is atmosphere. Atmosphere is having only 0.3% of the carbon dioxide, and when the blood comes to tissue, because oxygen which is bound to hemoglobin, it is brought to tissue. In tissue or the living cell, you can find out the metabolism is taking place. After metabolic reaction, carbon dioxide is liberated. Then the carbon dioxide, so that is combining with hemoglobin. Okay. And in the blood, you can find out what is the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide, so that is 45. As I told you, more and more binding of the oxygen with hemoglobin, will help in the dissociation of the carbon dioxide from the carbon in a hemoglobin. Okay. So why? Because when oxygen is combined with the hemoglobin, then it can make a compound which is oxyhemoglobin, and it is a strong acid. It can release H plus ion. So this H plus ion will bind to the bicarbonate which is there in the blood, so that it can make carbonic acid. Then carbonic acid, in the presence of enzyme carbonic anhydrase, it can dissociate into water and carbon dioxide. Okay. So you can find out in the blood what is the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide. So that is 45 mm per mercury, whereas in the alveoli it is 40. So because the amount is higher here in the blood, so automatically it can diffuse into alveoli. Then in the alveoli it is 40, partial pressure is 40, and in the atmosphere it is 0.3, very less. So easily from the alveoli it can be expelled out of the respiratory system. So this is the way how carbon dioxide, so that is dissociated from hemoglobin and it is released into the atmosphere.